Welcome to the Fundraising Leadership Podcast, where we engage in lively and thoughtful conversations with professionals in the nonprofit world. And I am here today with all of my partners. It's such a treat. We have a really fun podcast lined up for today. So first, I would like to introduce my friends and teammates, Janice Cunning and Michelle Malloy-Dillon, who are here with me. And today, our guest is our fourth teammate, David Langiulli. And we have David here to talk about his new book that he has just published. And it is a super unusual book. And I'd love, David, for you, maybe if you're willing to tell us why this one? What got you started here?
Woohoo, David!
Yeah.
Yoo-hoo!
Wow. You guys are hard, man. You guys ask hard questions on this podcast. I don't. Now I know why guests are hesitant to come on the podcast.
That's right. Are you sweating yet, David? Are you sweating yet?
It is more nerve-wracking to be the guest than to be the host. You know, like we've all been guests, and it's like there's always something like, "Oh, I'm like the featured person." So.
Yeah. So the inspiration for the most recent collection of essays, which
and I didn't say the title. I'm blowing it too. Wow, sorry. It is called
We're
Wisdom.
so nervous. Like we never do this with each other. So go ahead, Margaret. Tell everyone the title of my book.
Club moment. Okay.
Kerfluffle.
Exactly. The book is titled Wisdom from the Middle Ages for Living and Leading in Modern Times.
Yes. Right.
All right. So why the Middle Ages, David?
Well, that's a really good question. Like, who would think that there's anything to learn from the medieval period, also known as the Dark Ages, right? And I write in the introduction to the book that a lot of folks sort of the Middle Ages or the medieval period is kind of those several hundred years between the classical period and Renaissance. And so, is there really anything? Well, it turns out, yes, the printing press was invented during that time, and one of the books that was printed and received very wide circulation is a little devotional called The Imitation of Christ by a it's a collection of essays, and you guys know I like to write essays, and so this medieval monk wrote a collections of essays that were published, and it turns out that this Imitation of Christ is the second most widely read book in Christendom, or anybody who is Christian reads this book. So I had never read it, and I was like, whoa, I am woefully judging myself harshly, which we're going to get to. Like, how could you never have read this? You're a son of a philosopher, and you're a Christian, and you're woefully undereducated. So actually, I heard about this book from Eckhart Tolle, who we all like. For those of you in the audience who are not familiar with his work, he had a best-selling book called The Power of Now. This is very influential on me. He's one of my teachers, and I was listening to a talk of his, and he was, as he does, he just talks, and no preparation, no notes, just like us right now. And he said this little devotional is one of his go-to resources for inspiration. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, let me go take a look at this thing. So I found a version that was sort of written in sort of Victorian English. I started reading it, and was one of the sort of earlier translations into English. I was like, whoa, there's some good stuff in here. So as I did with my book on Stoicism, I said, let me see if there's anything I can add to this. And that's the genesis of the book. I started reading his essays. I was like, yeah, I think I might have something to say. And kind of part of the work was to bring that English up to modern speak. So I actually had to literally translate each essay into modern English, which was a task unto itself, and then share my interpretation or my view
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. So on the team, Michelle and I, not so into writing. Not our favorite way to reflect. Margaret and David, very into writing, and using writing as self-reflection. So I am curious, David, like just, this book and really all of your writings, because you're also, as people who listen hopefully know, like very active on LinkedIn and do beautiful writing there. So what do you think it gives you in terms of personal growth to be a writer?
Well, several things. It slows me down. It's a reflective. I find it well. The audience should know about you, Janice, that you're a quite an avaricious or avarice reader. Am I using the right word there, Margaret? You read a lot.
Voracious, I think, is the word you're
Voracious.
looking
That's
for.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, that was the word. Yeah, a voracious reader, and also Michelle does a lot of reading in the uh, personal development realm. So you guys are definitely readers. I I am either a very good reader because I have a language processing disorder, and so I listen to a lot of books. So all the more challenging when I'm translating pre-Victorian English. That's why I like essays, I think, because they're relatively short and I can get through them. Um, and so the writing part is like a way that I can reflect upon topics that I'm grappling with or that I'm interested in. Yeah, I would say that. What got me into writing, so I consider Margaret a writer. She has a background in journalism. I am more of a math and science guy and have fallen into writing, maybe like I fell into fundraising. Um, uh, the way I fell into writing was by reading Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. And she has a practice in that book called the morning pages. So I started those morning pages 12 plus years ago when I was leading a team at Princeton. I just started journaling in the morning.
And that's what it's 3 pages of stream of consciousness. Is that
Yeah,
her?
that's what she recommends. 3 pages in longhand of stream of consciousness writing. Yeah. And that um sparked something. Stuff started coming out. I only do 1 page in the morning. That's my practice. And that's what got me started writing. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really like about this book, David, and you referred to me as being a reader. I am a reader. I have traditionally been a reader, but I have to say I've really noticed in the last couple of years it's harder for me to read long books. And so I read your book in, one essay per day at a time. And it was almost like it created a focus of the day for me to think about. Because you have what Thomas Kempis wrote, and then you have your translation in your own words of what you think he was saying. And it was almost like reading a conversation between sages through the ages, which I loved about it. And it just got my thinking, inspired for the day about it was almost like an intention for the day.
Thank you. That's beautiful feedback. I really appreciate that. Yeah. No
And
one's
a new
ever said
hashtag,
that.
sages through the ages there.
Sages through the
Yes.
ages.
I know. It's like time travel.
Yeah, it is in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that style, at least up until now, the essay seems to be the sort of style or writing piece length that I am attracted to, partly because of my my language processing disorder. Doesn't, long things of reading or long bits of writing are very difficult for me. Margaret's writing a whole longer piece, which we're looking forward to having her on the podcast when she finishes her book. A different style of writing. My things are kind of pithy, punchy, and can be digested in like a single sitting, like a snack.
Yeah, like a snack.
Or breakfast.
And the snack that you're going to share with our listeners in our blog post is the essay on the dangers of familiarity and rash judgment. So, why did you choose that one for our particular nonprofit listeners?
Well, I chose that essay because it aligns with some of our work around positive intelligence. And for those in the audience who are familiar with our work and Shirzad's work, you're going to find a lot of that creeping into those essays. And so I was, before we got on the podcast, I was reflecting that, wow, yeah, a lot of that stuff we work with clients on was around in the Middle Ages.
This stuff is not new.
We'll just
it's not new,
yes,
but it's
Coach
just packaged
Thomas.
in a very, Coach Thomas. Yeah, I'll take a Kempis. But his essay, there's like two pieces to that is around, choosing friends and acquaintances wisely. Like in the positive intelligence framework, we would say when you're assessing whether or not to develop a friendship or have a client or work with a donor, there's what he calls blameless discernment, right? As opposed to judging people. And I know in my life, I've made several errors when it came to assessing people's character, and got into some relationships where that were not wholesome, would be a good way of describing them. Yeah. So that's like the first part of it. And then the second part, he talks about this kind of avoiding rash judgment, like how we judge others harshly, how we judge ourselves harshly. I know for me, that's something I've been working on for a long time, my inner critic, and how we reject or judge circumstances that happen in our lives. We want to push them away. We don't want to remember them. We don't want them to happen. We wish they didn't happen. It was bad. So he was already getting at this stuff, a long time ago.
Yeah, there's kind of a paradox, and you touch on this, but this idea of like both choosing carefully, which seems to involve making some sort of judgment about other people, and then not judging or what are your thoughts about how to reconcile two things that don't seem at first like they could both be true at the same time?
Well, I bring in also a lot of Buddhism into my interpretation of some of his essays, and in the Buddhist philosophy holds that there are many more paradoxes in life than we would think there are.
Yeah.
And so it's a seeming contradiction, right? That's what a paradox is. And so I do like the way Shirzad and in our positive intelligence program gets at it, like being discerning, has more of a middle path. Of course, the Greeks were also interested in the middle way, right? So trying to thread the needle, so to speak. And yes, human relationships are
messy.
messy. Yeah. And also in the same training that we all got, where we picked up that, our human mess, we started to embrace our human mess as opposed to our humanness, or really our human mess. We were taught that we're human judging machines, and we just are. And so the practice is to start to uh, be aware when you're judging harshly or putting things in polarity, good, bad, right, wrong. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I love what you're.
does that
Yeah,
answer it?
it does, and I love what you're saying because it reminds me and hopefully all of us that sometimes there can be nothing wrong with another person. You can just choose that isn't a person that you want to spend a lot of time with, or right, not because there's
Yeah.
something wrong with them.
Yeah. I mean, when I was making notes, I wrote, like, to me, it's a yes and, another big philosophy that it's like both of these things, we can hold both of these things. And, I was struck, David, but you brought in, your sensitivity, and, you and Margaret did a beautiful podcast recently about, being a sensitive person. And I think that's another thing, like we see a lot in fundraising, there's a lot of empathy. A lot of fundraisers very empathetic, and that and I've found myself in that space where sometimes you look back and you think, like, yeah, I shared too much with that person, right? Like, I think part of discernment is, and there's a lot of research on this in terms of creating trust too, is like it has to emerge from something, like you have to get there. And so I think it's important to remember that we can have both of those things, and that we have to know also, like, some of us, I think, default to sharing too much, and then some people hold back too much. And it's more like, where are you in the continuum, and what is your work?
Yeah, and the magic happens, I think, in the awareness of that. And that's where the self-development, personal growth aspect comes in this, is that being aware of ourselves in terms of the assumptions that we might be making about someone or a situation, the areas that we're going into sort of protection mode, whereas we may need to open up, or where we're too open and we may need to close down a little bit. That's the magic area, because if we can know ourselves better and our impact on ourselves and the world around us, then there's more of a conscious behavior. There's more of a conscious impact.
I want to add something here that's, I think, near and dear to all of our hearts, in that we are certified professional coaches. And in the training that we received, I really don't know too much about the other methodologies. I just know we got the gold standard of training and coach certification. Very early on, we were trained to self-manage or suspend judgment, especially when clients come to us with difficult problems, get difficult situations, life situations. It can be very easy to judge them and right, wrong. You should do this anytime we don't do that as coaches. Like, you will never come to one of us and be judged. In fact, when I talk to clients about coaching, this is a judgment-free environment. You can bring anything. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not here to judge you, to make you wrong. Just say you're right. And the feedback that I've received from clients over the years is that creates really a sacred space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, David,
let's make this a judgment-free world. Wouldn't that be a different world?
Yeah.
Turn off cable news.
Well, I was saying, when you were talking about Shirzad should be another sage through the age, Michelle's new hashtag. And I think it's that's really, yeah, it's a beautiful. I sometimes say to clients, like, also, even other people in your life who care about you, they have a vested interest in your decisions. Your coach is a safe space to talk about potentially doing anything. And I always say, like, I want you to live your values and be fulfilled, but how you do that doesn't matter to me, right? So even the people who love us, it's not even necessarily judgment. It's sort of attachment sometimes, right? To the decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be a very fun and creative space to to play.
And I will say for myself, it's an ongoing practice. I catch myself judging and assessing all the time because we're human judging machines. That's what we do. And, but I notice it much more quickly, and I get off it. It's like, like get off it, man. Like,
Yeah.
That's not helping the situation.
Yeah.
Now, that's like an advanced practice when you can get to that point. But it's so interesting. I find it so interesting, that he was grappling with that as a human being in the Middle Ages and realized it wasn't all that skillful to be judging people.
I think it might be helpful, maybe to define, but also maybe to give an example, David, of like in your own life, like maybe you can bring an example. Like, I think sometimes it's hard to know, are we judging or discerning? I think people grapple with what does that mean? We know that in our PQ work, that often that moment they're like, what does that mean? What is it to discern versus judge?
Or to divine discernment, which is
divine discernment is what he calls it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see an example. It's like the suchness of things. This is the way Eckhart Tolle talks about this. Like, it's just what happened. Just what happened. Like, a lot I see in myself and in clients through my work that we're very quick to judge circumstances. And this is, maybe we're going to give them something to try around this at the end of the podcast. But and so and I'm trying to think of something recently. I'll give you one this morning.
That's recent. That counts.
I'm filling up a water bottle from the refrigerator spout that comes out the door, and the water goes like flying all over the refrigerator, all over the floor, and I'm just like, like, you're an effing idiot. Like, I didn't say that out loud, but then I was like, okay, just get the towel and clean up the mess. Like, that's it. There's water, And so it's not like I'm a saint and never get triggered by stuff or by people, or it's just that I was like in the middle of it. I was like, okay, it's just some water, get a towel. Like, the suchness of it is there's a mess on the refrigerator and on the floor. You made a mistake. You didn't put the water bottle in the right spot. Go get the towel and clean it up. That's the blameless discernment of what happened.
And it's a totally different energy level than that judge coming in and judging yourself in that moment.
Yeah, I think the judge makes it like a good thing happened or a bad thing happened.
Yeah.
Whereas with
there's no in between.
Right. With discernment, like, something happened. A thing happened. Yeah.
And some folks in the audience might be like judging me right now for judging myself this morning. Like, what are you, an idiot? Like, yeah, it's just some water. Like, what's your problem, man? So you gotta look at that. Yeah. You gotta look like, chill out, dude. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah, you've done all this coach training and you're still judging yourself for spilling water. Come on.
Well, and
practicing for when he spills the red wine.
Oh man, there was an Easter Sunday. Talk about, yeah, there was an Easter Sunday many years ago, family Easter Sunday, and my sister had bought my mom a new cloth, tablecloth for the Easter Sunday dinner. And I knocked over a glass of wine. And man, I was on the receiving end of some harsh judgment. Man, that sticks with me. So that's the other thing about judging others is when that comes out of your mouth. Like, this is my sister, we love each other. We've grown up together. We have a complicated relationship at times, but when you judge others harshly, that has an impact. That really has an impact. And I remember that. Now, this is what forgiveness, we could get into self-compassion practice and forgiveness. And I do a lot of this work with clients because many, not just me, have a harsh inner critic voice where we can be very hard on ourselves. And others are harsh in their judgment of other people. And some just are constantly like, I just walk around my condo building. Oh, can you believe this happened and they did this? And it's just like, oh my God, okay. So it just depends on your personality. And we all do this in some form or another. But when you judge another person harshly and it has an impact. And we have a lot of leaders in the audience, and we do a lot of work on being awareness of impact. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the questions, you offer some questions for people to ponder in what you wrote. And one of them was like, was my behavior skillful or unskillful? Right. So
yeah,
that story makes me think, like, as you're bringing in work, like, yeah, sometimes people make mistakes. Like, it was like a mistake was made, in your case, some red wine was spilled. And in some cases, it's like maybe a budget line was put in incorrectly. Maybe a donor gift, wasn't properly put in the system. And maybe a donor was sent an invitation to an event with the wrong name. Like, mistakes are made, right? So maybe talk about that, right? Like, how do we separate judging versus like exploring?
Yeah. So mistakes are going to be made. This is the first thing. And so one of the saboteurs one of the ways leaders sabotage themselves and others in the organization is by aiming for perfection. Like, we call it the stickler saboteur. And there's even an essay, I think there's an essay by the good monk and me talking about this perfectionism in the book. But this is really not all that helpful because we are human beings. We make mistakes. And it's good. Like, blameless discernment is, oh, you sent, an invitation to a donor with another donor's name on it. Okay. So, we could have what happened? How did that happen? Oh, well, it turns out that we had filled in the field in the database with the improper name. Okay. So what are you going to do so that doesn't happen again? Well, I already went in there and changed the field, so now the donor's name is correct. Oh, great! And is there anything else that this is like if you're having a conversation with an employee about this mistake? Is there anything else that you and this would be in a coaching format, the way we train people to actually have a coach-like approach, right? So is there anything else that you might think would be useful in this particular circumstance? Well, yes. Oh, what would that be? I guess I have to call the donor. Victim. That's another saboteur, by the way. Yeah, okay. yeah, that might be skillful. What are you going to say to the donor? Oh, I don't know. Well, what do you think would be helpful? Well, I guess I'll apologize. Well, yeah, if you go in with a tone like that, that's not going to go over very well. So you get my best Eeyore. But you can have a conversation with someone about the mistake. It's not like we like blame this as a servant. Something happened. A mistake was made. Clean up the mess. Restore integrity to the situation.
Yeah.
You know.
There doesn't have to be conflict here. We're just talking about it and figuring out how to restore it. Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's the important piece is like, I think sometimes people maybe worry like, well, if we can't judge things, then like things are going to go off the rails. Whereas discernment is, yes, we are allowed to name what happened. We are allowed to talk about the impact of what happened. We're allowed to figure out how to clean up the mess of what happened, but we're doing that from a very different energetic place than judging.
It's
I mean,
a recounting of what happened with less shaming and blaming.
Yeah, thank you. That was where I was going to. I've worked in organizations where there was a lot of shaming and blaming when you made an error, and I can share that that is not with blameless discernment. That is not all that skillful. People think like, oh, if I shame and blame you, then you won't do it. Somehow that will be the guardrail. This is, by the way, I believe, my opinion, um, not a helpful way to grow your people. But there is like something in the culture, and it is pervasive in cable news. Like, oh, if we shame and blame people enough, they'll stop that behavior. In my experience, that just doesn't work as a behavioral tool. Yeah. And in fact, it does more harm than it does good. But it's pervasive in our society. Yeah.
It is. So David, you've given us a lot to think about, but is there anything specific that you would like to leave the audience with or invite them to try?
We do this like 5-period visualization. You guys might remember that, where you divide your life into 5 periods. So this is actually, I'm going in a different direction here. I might give the audience this exercise, and you can reach out to one of us and we can lead you through it if you'd like. But you divide your life, your age by 5, and you look at those periods, and you look at those periods and you write down things that you thought were bad, you know, and then you go back and you look at those circumstances and you see what did that lead to, what you thought was bad, you know, and how that turned out to be a gift. And if you do this, I think we can assure you that you will find gifts in things that you have been labeling as quote unquote bad in your life. So that's the inquiry. Yeah.
Yeah, great practice to try, David. I've always gotten a lot of personal discoveries out of that exercise. Who's to know what's good or bad, right?
Who's to know what's good or bad?
Yeah.
Who could say? Yeah. Well, David, thank you so much for talking with us about your book. I enjoyed it. It has so much heart in it, so much of David's heart in it, which makes it spectacular, in my opinion. We will have a link for people to buy it if they would like to. It is called, again, Wisdom from the Middle Ages for Living and Leading in Modern Times.
Yes. This program is brought to you by Fundraising Leadership. We provide unique coaching and training programs to grow nonprofit leaders. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. If you're enjoying the show, you can help us continue to bring thoughtful content with a one-time contribution. This supports our production costs and keeps the show ad-free. Contribute today using the link in the show notes, and you'll receive one or more of our highly acclaimed online courses. Now go put it into practice.